So think about this for a second. What if that stunning, eco-friendly jungle resort you just booked, the one with the locally sourced bamboo straws, the organic linens, the aggressive carbon offset program, what if that exact resort is actually accelerating the destruction of the community you're visiting?
Oh, man. I mean, it is a profoundly uncomfortable question.
Yeah, nobody wants to think about that on vacation.
Right, but it is exactly the kind of question we have to start asking if we want to understand the actual future of global travel.
Completely agree. Because for decades, the holy grail in the travel industry was this concept of sustainability, right? The
Okay.
basic idea was just tread lightly, do less harm, try to leave the beach or the mountain exactly as you found it.
Exactly, the old pack in, pack out mentality.
Yeah, but recently, a massive shift has happened. There's this new buzzword that has completely taken over the travel world, and that is regenerative tourism.
Which is a big step up from just sustainability. A huge step up. The promise here is much bigger than just doing no harm. The pitch is that you can actually leave a place significantly better than you found it.
Right, so restoring the environment, reviving local cultures, genuinely improving the lives of the people who live there.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds absolutely amazing on paper.
It does. It sounds like the utopian ideal of how we should interact with the world.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, whenever a multi-billion-dollar industry adopts a concept that sounds utterly flawless, it is usually a very good time to look under the hood.
Oh, for sure.
We really need to see how the mechanics actually operate in practice, away from the glossy brochures.
And that is exactly the mission of today's deep dive. We are looking at a brand new 2026 paper published in Tourism Recreation Research.
Under the Routledge, Taylor, and Francis Group umbrella, yeah.
Right. And the paper is titled Critical Regenerative Tourism, a Systematic Review. It's by Palomera and Francesc Fuster-Forner. We are going to analyze their deep, systematic review of 119 different academic papers on this exact topic.
It's a really comprehensive data set. It really is. So for you listening, our goal today is to figure out, is regenerative tourism actually a transformative, ground-up paradigm shift for global travel? Or is it just the industry's newest, highly sophisticated greenwashing marketing trick?
Well, to get to the bottom of that, the authors propose a really compelling core thesis right out of the gate.
Let's hear it.
They argue that if regenerative tourism is going to actually transform the travel industry, it cannot just be a checklist of environmental to-dos.
Like, it can't just be planting a tree for every flight you take.
Exactly. It absolutely has to be paired with what sociologists call critical theory.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because going from booking a nice eco lodge in Costa Rica to talking about dense academic sociology, that feels like a massive leap.
It does, but it's a necessary one.
Let's look at the data from the paper first, because I think it makes the gap we are dealing with crystal clear. The source data shows explosive growth in people researching this trend.
Oh, it's everywhere now.
Right. In 2020, there were just 5 academic publications on regenerative tourism. But by 2024, that number shot up to 49.
Huge jump.
But here is the major aha moment for me. Out of the 119 papers analyzed in this systematic review, only 13 explicitly mention critical theory.
Wow, only 13.
Yeah. The vast majority of the research is just relying on standard environmental sciences or consumer behavior models.
Right, so they are looking closely at the local ecology, or they're studying tourist psychology, like what makes a traveler choose the green option.
Exactly.
But they are completely ignoring the underlying power dynamics of the global tourism industry. And that is what critical theory is all about.
Okay, define that for us a bit more.
Sure. It's a framework born from the Frankfurt School. It's designed to actively question existing power structures, economic systems, and societal inequalities. It basically asks who is actually making the rules and who is profiting from them.
I mean, to me, trying to practice regenerative tourism without looking at those power dynamics, it feels like installing state-of-the-art solar panels on a house while the foundation is actively sinking into a swamp.
That is a perfect analogy.
Like if we don't look at the massive capitalist and neoliberal forces that cause mass tourism to be so destructive in the first place,
Right.
the unchecked development, the exploitation of cheap local labor.
The funneling of profits back to corporate headquarters.
Exactly. If we ignore all that, how can we possibly claim to be fixing the system?
We can't. And what's fascinating here is how the authors explain that without this critical lens, the industry inevitably commodifies culture.
Oof, yeah. Break that down for us. What does the commodification of culture actually look like on the ground?
Think about a traditional sacred community dance. Historically, it might take an entire day to perform. It's deeply tied to a local harvest or a spiritual
A
calendar.
highly significant event for the community.
Right. But when tourism systems operate strictly on a profit motive, that deeply meaningful event gets stripped of its context. Right.
It gets condensed into a 45-minute show performed in the lobby of a luxury hotel, perfectly timed between the dinner buffet and cocktail hour.
Wow. Purely for the entertainment-paying guests.
Exactly. The culture isn't being regenerated. It's being packaged, simplified, and sold.
That's so grim.
It is, without a critical lens asking who controls the narrative and who profits from that performance. Regenerative tourism risks becoming just another shiny label used to sell that same homogenized package.
And that dynamic, turning local knowledge into a resource to be extracted and sold, that leads directly into the most glaring contradiction the authors found in the research.
The part about indigenous communities.
Yes. The numbers in this paper are honestly staggering. Out of the 119 papers reviewed, 49 of them eagerly discussed the importance of incorporating indigenous beliefs into regenerative tourism.
They rave about how vital traditional ancestral knowledge is for healing the land, right?
Exactly. But out of those 49 papers, only 7 directly engage with indigenous members.
Only 7. It is a phenomenal disconnect. It's wild.
It really reveals a deeply ingrained habit within both academia and the corporate world. We have a tendency to treat indigenous knowledge like a raw material, like timber or coal.
Just something to be mined.
Right. We want to extract the useful bits of wisdom about local ecosystems, but we have very little interest in engaging with the actual people as equal partners, decision makers, or leaders in the conversation.
I mean, how can an industry, or even an academic field for that matter, claim to be regenerative or community-led if it is constantly talking about marginalized groups rather than talking with them?
You hit the nail on the head, and the methodology section of this review really exposes the mechanics of how this happens.
Let's hear it.
The authors found that absolutely 0 studies in the review utilized indigenous research methodologies. 0.
Wait, really? Not a single one?
Not one. Even when researchers did engage with these communities, they filtered every single interaction through standard Western scientific paradigms.
So like structured interviews and stuff.
Exactly. They used traditional tools, clipboards, rigid surveys, standard interviews, Likert scales.
But if I fly into a community for 3 days with a clipboard and a list of 20 highly specific questions, I am completely dictating the parameters of the conversation.
You are
I'm essentially forcing their complex worldview into my pre-formatted spreadsheet.
precisely. It forces incredibly nuanced generational knowledge into a very narrow scientific framework. It assumes that knowledge is just data waiting to be collected.
Right.
But the paper points out that there are rich alternative methods available that fundamentally change that dynamic.
Like what?
For example, the authors discuss methodologies based on what is called story as a gift, or the use of traditional talking circles.
Okay, I want you, the listener, to really picture the difference here.
Yeah.
Imagine you're trying to understand the ecological importance of a local river. The Western clipboard method involves asking a local resident to rate the importance of the river on a scale of 1 to 5, or maybe answering a strict set of yes or no questions about water usage. But how does a method like story as a gift or a talking circle actually operate differently?
Well, a talking circle isn't about rapid-fire data extraction. It is about relationship building.
Okay.
It operates on oral transmission and deep, uninterrupted listening. Instead of asking a direct, isolated question about water usage, you might sit with community elders for hours, perhaps sharing a meal.
Oh, wow.
And you listen to the generational stories of how the river has sustained their people, the legends associated with its floods, and the specific ways their ancestors managed the riverbanks.
That's a completely different vibe.
It is. The story as a gift framework posits that this knowledge is not a commodity you are entitled to take. It is a gift that is offered to you only when trust has been established.
It completely flips the power dynamic. You stop being an active investigator demanding answers, and you become a guest who is being taught. And that shift in relationship seems to be exactly what Mura and Fuste-Forney are advocating for here.
Yes, it's central to their proposed solution. They propose officially merging these two fields, the environmental goals of regeneration and the systemic critiques of sociology.
And they call this new framework critical regenerative tourism.
Yes. Their goal is to fundamentally rethink the economics and the power structures of travel, because frankly, you cannot regenerate an ecosystem if the economic system built on top of it is fundamentally extractive.
So what does this all mean? Let's say I am a local mayor of a coastal town or a regional tourism director, and I want to implement this critical regenerative tourism.
Okay.
How does this actually change the way the industry operates on the ground?
Well, the very first thing that has to change is how your town measures success. The authors introduced the concept of well-being economics.
From Dalziel and Saunders, right?
Yes, their 2015 concept. Traditionally, the global tourism industry and local governments measure success strictly through economic growth metrics.
Like gross domestic product.
Exactly. GDP, the number of new hotel rooms built, the sheer volume of tourists arriving at the airport.
Right. If 2 million people visit the beach this year instead of 1 million, the graph goes up, the mayor celebrates, and it's considered a massive win.
Exactly. But well-being economics argues that raw economic activity should merely be a means to an end, and that end must be the actual, tangible well-being of the community.
That makes a lot of sense.
Success under this critical regenerative model is measured entirely differently. It is measured by whether the tourism sector expands the freedoms and capabilities of the local residents.
So it's about asking, do locals still have access to their own beaches? Is the air and water cleaner?
Right. Are the jobs created actually paying a living wage that allows residents to thrive? Or are they just low-wage seasonal labor?
The goal shifts from endless exponential growth to ecological and social integrity.
Exactly.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though, because looking at this from a real-world perspective, we all know how the corporate machine operates.
Oh, absolutely.
The moment well-being or regenerative becomes a trendy selling point that travelers are willing to pay a premium for, massive global hotel chains are just going to co-opt the language.
They absolutely will.
They'll print out new brochures with a nice picture of a leaf, slap a regenerative sticker on their website, maybe fund a local community garden, and then they'll keep funneling millions of dollars out of the local economy.
Right.
How does this critical approach actually stop a billion-dollar multinational corporation from just greenwashing the whole concept?
That is a very real threat, and it is exactly why the authors insist on the critical aspect of this framework. They argue that we need incredibly rigorous systemic checks on power.
Okay, like what?
We cannot just take corporations or even a government's word for it. One of the primary tools they suggest is called critical discourse analysis, or CDA.
Wait, hold on. Analyzing discourse? Looking at language and policies is great for academics writing papers, but how does analyzing a corporate press release or a UN tourism document actually stop a bulldozer from tearing up a local mangrove forest to build a resort?
That is a fair challenge. But CDA isn't just about critiquing word choices. It is about exposing the legal frameworks and policy loopholes that allow that bulldozer to operate in the first place.
Oh, interesting.
When major power centers like global tourism boards or national governments write policy, they often use empowering language that masks extractive practices.
Ah, right.
CDA acts as a forensic audit of that language. For example, an analyst using CDA might look at a new regional development plan and point out, wait, this document uses the word consultation 30 times, but it never uses the word consent or ownership regarding the local community.
Ah, I see. So it's about finding the hidden architecture in the policies. If a community is only being consulted, they have no actual veto power.
Exactly. The corporation can listen politely, ignore them, and send in the bulldozers anyway.
That's sneaky. But by forensically analyzing that discourse, local advocates, journalists, and policymakers are empowered to demand airtight, legally binding language in zoning laws and development contracts.
Precisely. It forces the system to actually decentralize governance rather than just using the vocabulary of regenerative tourism to maintain the exact same capitalist status quo.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because it's one thing to critique the high-level economics, the GDP metrics, and the legal policies.
Right.
It's another thing entirely to look at the profound internal mindset shifts that have to happen for any of this environmental conservation to actually work on a human level.
Oh, absolutely.
The authors point to a specific framework from a 2021 paper by M. Set Nolkamak and several other scholars that they suggest we all adopt.
Yes, and this might be the most transformative part of the entire review. The framework they are referencing is about re-indigenizing conservation.
Okay, break that down for us.
This represents a radical, fundamental departure from standard Western capitalist ideologies. The traditional Western view often treats nature as property to be managed, a pristine park to be fenced off, or a bundle of resources to be optimized.
Like nature's a museum we visit, or a warehouse we pull supplies from.
Precisely. But the review highlights a core principle from this framework. the concept of Emnut Nukmek, which is an indigenous worldview that recognizes all our relations.
All our relations. I love that.
It posits that humans are not separate from or superior to the surrounding ecology. We are deeply biologically and spiritually intertwined with it.
So you aren't managing the forest. You are part of the forest's community.
Exactly. And they introduce another concept alongside that, which I find incredibly powerful. It's called etu-atmunk, or two-eyed seeing.
Two-eyed seeing. Okay, what does that look like?
Two-eyed seeing is the idea of being strong like two people. It is about bridging perspectives. It means learning to see from one eye with the strengths of indigenous knowledges and ways of knowing, and from the other eye with the strengths of Western knowledges.
Just to make sure we are clear on this isn't about compromising or watering down one side to appease the other, right?
Not at all. Think of it like stereoscopic vision.
Oh, I like that.
You need both eyes to get true depth perception. It is not about discarding Western science. Western science is incredibly useful for tracking carbon emissions at a molecular level or testing water quality for specific heavy metals.
Right.
But that one eye lacks the deep generational context of the landscape. By using the other eye, indigenous wisdom, which might understand the centuries-old migratory patterns of the local salmon or the historical fire cycles of the forest, you harmonize the two.
Wow. They work together to create a complete, three-dimensional picture of the ecosystem, rather than one worldview dominating and suppressing the other.
Exactly.
So if you apply that two-eyed seeing to your own choices, I want you to picture what that tourist experience actually looks like on the ground. Let's imagine you are visiting a coastal region.
Okay.
In the old model, you stay in a massive, foreign-owned resort. You pay a premium for an eco-friendly room, but the reality is that the vast majority of your money leaks completely out of the country, straight to a corporate headquarters in London or New York.
Right. The food you eat is flown in, and the locals working there are paid minimum wage to clean rooms.
It is an extractive loop, regardless of whether they ask you to reuse your bath towels to save water.
Right. Totally missing the point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in a critical regenerative model, you are participating in a locally owned circular economy. And for those unfamiliar, a circular economy simply means that the money you spend stays in the community and bounces around.
It doesn't leak out.
Right. You pay a locally owned lodge for your room. The lodge owner uses that money to buy produce from the farmer down the road. The farmer uses that money to hire a local carpenter to fix their barn.
I see.
Your single tourist dollar circulates through the town 5 or 6 times, enriching the entire community, rather than immediately leaking out to an international bank account.
And your behavior as a guest changes alongside that economic shift. You aren't just there to take a few curated photos of a waterfall for social media and leave. You are there to learn from what the paper calls the languages of the land. You are engaging in relationships built on mutual respect and truth rather than just consumption.
It completely redefines the concept of a vacation. It stops being an escape from your world and becomes a deep engagement with someone else's.
To synthesize everything we've covered from this extensive review, regenerative tourism possesses truly incredible potential.
It really does.
It is a beautiful, necessary evolution of the travel industry, but the data makes it incredibly clear that it will only succeed if it actively disrupts existing power structures.
It can't just be a surface-level rebrand.
Right. It must truly center marginalized voices, particularly indigenous communities, and it has to move beyond the consumerist model of endless, unchecked economic growth. If regenerative tourism doesn't embrace these critical theory elements, it won't be a paradigm shift.
It'll just be another passing trend, another hollow marketing slogan.
Exactly.
It has to have teeth. It can't just be a nice idea.
This raises an important question for all of us. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the authors are reminding us that academic knowledge and our awareness of it is only valuable when it is actively applied.
Right.
This research is a challenge to the multinational corporations and the tourism boards, yes, but it is also a direct challenge to us. We have to critically question our own roles, our own assumptions, and our own behaviors as consumers within this global ecosystem.
Because we are the economic engine of this industry.
We absolutely are.
That is the perfect takeaway. We have the power to decide where our money goes and what kind of systems it supports. To build on that, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to mull over. We talked quite a bit today about that non-Western methodology mentioned in the paper, the idea of the story as a gift. Think about the very next place you plan to travel to. If the land itself and its original stewards were to use the story as a gift method to describe your visit, what kind of character would you be in their story? Would you be a passive consumer, just passing through, extracting what you want and leaving? Or would you be a regenerative participant in their ecosystem?